welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing another story time today. I know I done one last week, but this one is very different. I've seen so many brave women in the past couple of weeks speak about their experiences with sexual assault and sexual harassment. I personally don't feel comfortable enough to speak about the majority of my experiences, but there is one experience that I'm willing to share, and I'm hoping that it will continue to spread awareness for just one of the things that the majority of women will experience at least once in their lifetime. I don't want to bore you with a super long intro, but before we do get into the video, I'd really appreciate if you could give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this video or my story times in general, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe. But anyway, let's get straight into telling my story. Okay, so just a couple of key facts before I get into it. This happened quite a while ago. I was 19, so I just had Noah, and I have experienced similar things in the past, so it wasn't completely alien to me, but there were a couple of reasons why this particular situation was different to other experiences that I've been followed or harassed. So anyway, I was 19 and I just returned to work from maternity leave. At the time, because I had moved so far away from where I worked, I was commuting around an hour and 10 minutes each way, so around 2 hours in total travel. And on this one particular day, I went to work as normal. I was running a little bit late. Anyway, for me to get to work, I had to get 2 trains and a bus, so it was quite a journey. Now, I got on the first train, which was only a couple of stops, and I didn't notice anything strange. I was just on the train on my way to work. And when I got off of that train and onto my next train, it was obviously before coronavirus, so, you know, it was a lot more normal to sit next to someone on the train. So I got on the train, and this train was quite a few stops, so I took a seat. I took the first available seat that I saw, and there was a guy next to me. Didn't think anything of him at first, and I remember so clearly I was playing this game called Balls on my phone. Do you know when you can kind of feel someone like peering at what you're doing? That's always made me really uncomfortable. Even though I was just playing a game, I just don't like it when people look at my phone. So I was sitting on the train, kind of trying to mind my own business, and this guy kept like peering over. And then I noticed he was nodding to himself, and it was strange because I can't explain why. Like, he just every 2 minutes he would like nod, literally just. Yeah, and he wasn't talking to anyone, it was just him. And because of that, I kind of started paying attention to him because it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I can't explain why, because, you know, someone nodding is not threatening, but there was something in my gut that was like, this situation is a bit strange. Anyway, so I was trying not to pay too much attention to him because I didn't want him to talk to me. He was wearing a bright blue jacket. I only know that because I could see him in the reflection of the tube. And again, only stating this to paint a clearer picture, but he had at the time the newest iPhone, and he had like wireless Beats, but he was holding a beer, and it was around 8:30 in the morning, so that was a bit like throwing for me. I couldn't figure out like who he was as a character, and I think a lot of women will relate. When you feel threatened or you feel like you're in a bad situation, you're taught from a young age to remember something about that person, something that makes them stand out, so if anything does happen, you can say he was wearing this or he looked like this, which is why I was kind of taking notes of this person. And again, I know he was not doing anything threatening, I just felt uncomfortable. Anyway, so I got off the train. I was in King's Cross, and I was going from the Northern Line in King's Cross station to the Victoria line, but I was late for work and I ran. When I got on the train, there was 2 other people like on the other row of seats, and as I sat down, this same guy that was on the train next to me sat directly opposite me. Again, just a gut feeling. I was like, it's not right, mainly because I had ran to the tube. So I was like, this guy would have had to run behind me, and that made me very uncomfortable. And he was sat there and he was just staring at me. He didn't say anything. I know that I overthink things a lot, so even in this situation I was thinking, I am probably being paranoid, he's probably just on the same route going in a similar direction. But by this point I definitely had my wits about me, and I was very scared of, you know, why he had chosen to sat directly opposite me when there was hundreds of free seats, and why he was staring at me. Now, the next station from King's Cross was Highbury and Islington, I believe. I might have missed one station out. But when we got to Highbury and Islington, the 2 people that were on the tube got up and left, and it was just me and him, and I kind of like assessed that situation. I didn't want to be in it, so I stood up to get off the train as well. And he stood up, so I sat down, because I was like, if he's getting off the train, that's fine, everything's fine. And then he sat down and the doors closed, and it was just me and him, and I cannot explain the panic that I was in. And I was trying to remain calm. I was trying not to look at him. I was trying not to make him feel as though I thought he was following me or wanted anything from me. I was just sat there thinking, okay, I'm getting off at the next stop and I'm just going to focus on that. I'm not going to focus on this man. I am still thinking I'm probably being paranoid. So we've got to Finsbury Park and I've gone to get off the train, but I waited for the doors to beep so that he didn't know I was getting off and he couldn't assess, okay, she's getting off, so I'm going to get off too. I got off and I ran out, but obviously it's not really that great a plan because when you run through the doors, they open. So it's kind of hard for me to explain this next bit, but I'm going to try my hardest. Now, to get off of the platform, you have to go upstairs. Rather than doing that, I've walked onto the parallel platform, walked past the stairs and basically come back on myself because the guy had got off the train. So I was thinking he's obviously going to assume I've gone up the stairs and I've left. So I walked back on myself and I stood in the little like tunnel bit that connects the platforms. I stood there for about, I want to say, a minute, and I was thinking, okay, by this point he would have gone up the stairs. I'm safe to go back and go round. I've walked to the stairs, and as I really don't like telling this story because it genuinely does make me feel so uncomfortable, but I've walked to go up the stairs, and as I've turned the corner, I've walked into him, and obviously that's now contact. I've touched him. Whether it's the fact that I bumped into him or whatever it was, obviously I feel like it's human instinct to like kind of jolt. But because I've bumped into him, he's jolted and like lifted his hands up. I ran, and I'm so glad that I did because I know it's so common to freeze in a situation like that. But I didn't. I ran just literally off of instinct, and I got out of the tunnel where the bus station is. If you know Finsbury Park, then that will make sense. If not, when you leave the station, there is like a big bus garage thing, like big bus stop. I've got to the gates and I was in two minds as to whether to just keep running and get on the bus and go to work, or whether to speak to someone. And I was literally at this point shaking, like I was crying and shaking, and I walked like out of the gate and there was a woman stood at the gate, and I said, excuse me, like could you pretend that I'm asking you for directions? And she was like, what? Like why? And I was like, it doesn't matter, it's not important, I'm probably being paranoid, I just want to speak to someone. And she said, is someone following you? Which kind of like rang alarm bells for me because I was like, why would you assume that? And then I said, I don't know, I think so. And she asked me to describe him, and I said, he's wearing a bright blue jacket. And she said, right, don't panic, but he's behind you. At this point I was literally like, do you know, so scared, because I'm thinking this guy has not said one word to me, he's not made his intentions clear. And the reason I say that is because if someone approaches you in the street and they say, excuse me, what's your number, or you're pretty, or something like that, then you know what their intention is. The fact that he was not saying anything scared me like beyond my own explanation. I can't put into words how terrified I was. He walked from, so he's behind me, I'm speaking to this woman, he walked behind her and stood behind her and stared at me. And at this point I'm thinking, again, what do you want? Like, and the woman was like to me, right, okay, come with me. So she's walked me into, you know, in tube stations where you have the bit where you can go and speak to someone who's behind the glass. I don't know what they're called. But I was in there, she took me in there. And at this point there was like all of the staff from the station were in the room with me, and they were asking me questions, you know, what station did you get off? Where are you going? Where did you start? Kind of thing. In the room there was CCTV. So they were looking at the CCTV to see where this guy was because he had walked out of the station, meaning he'd walked through the gates, so he's paid to leave. So I'm in there and they called British Transport Police. That just made me a little bit more scared because I was thinking, obviously I'm not being paranoid if they've now called BTP. So one of the guys that was in the room has turned around and he was like, right, okay, the guy's on the platform. Like, so he's come back into the station and he's on the platform. So from there they were watching him on the CCTV, and he was literally just walking around the station, not getting on the train, not leaving, not just walking around. The guy that was in the room could see like how scared I was, and he asked me, do you want me to go and speak to him before the police come? And I was like, I don't really want him to know that I'm still here. I don't know what to do. I just want him to leave. So the guy walked out to him, just said to him, listen, you've really scared a girl. She thinks that you're following her, and you've made her really, really uncomfortable. If you're not getting on the train, then we'd appreciate it if you leave. And he said to the guy, you can't make me leave. I haven't committed a crime. And the guy was like, right, that's fair enough, but you have made this woman very, very scared, and if you're not getting on a train, again, we'd appreciate it if you could leave. And he just said the same thing. He said to the guy, so what if I followed her? I didn't commit a crime. So the guy came back to where I was, the guy that worked in the tube station, and this guy followed him, like walked with him. So now he's seen that I'm in the booth thing, and he just stood outside and again didn't say anything, just stood there. And then British Transport Police came and they pretty much just had the same conversation with him, saying that he needs to leave, and he said no, he doesn't. Basically he could be getting on a train, was what he was saying. So they called the Metropolitan Police, who came and they actually arrested this guy. guy. So he's gone off and like done an interview somewhere, I don't know where they took him. And then when they spoke to me, they basically said that he had admitted that he was following me, but he didn't say why. And then they basically explained to me that because it's not an event that has happened in the past, so he hasn't stalked me continuously, and because he didn't touch me, he didn't say anything to me, he didn't harass me, that, you know, he couldn't be charged. To which I was like, right, okay, like what can I do about that? There's nothing I can really do. Cut a long story short, they basically drove me to work, and I went to work as normal. I was very late because the whole situation took a long time, but they took me to work. Now, to some people that might sound like it's not a big old deal, and you know, he didn't touch me, he didn't say anything to me, he wasn't harassing me. But my biggest fear was if I hadn't spoke to that woman and I had just gone to work, this guy now would have known where I worked. And to add to that, if I hadn't noticed that he was following me, then what would happen in the future? Would he follow me again and I'm oblivious to it? Has he followed me in the past and I didn't realise? There was just a lot of like what ifs, and the police basically advised me not to travel that route anymore and to change my route to work. So I had to change my whole commute, which was a massive hassle. The reason this situation is so different to any other situation I've been in is mainly because he didn't speak, so I didn't know his intention. But it's more about the effect that it's had on me since. I am now even more paranoid to if someone is behind me, or you know, if it's just me and a man on a train, or if I'm walking down the road and it's dark, just in so many situations. And now I am so much more aware, which is a good thing, but it's unfortunate that I have to be. Why do I need to be aware to if someone might harm me because I'm a woman, or because I'm vulnerable, or because I can't defend myself? It's not fair. That situation taught me a lot, but it's also scarred me in a way, because I often actually think about like when I am on the train, because I spent so long trying not to look at this guy's face and not to give him that attention, which my mum kind of said to me afterwards, that was the wrong thing to do. You should have basically stared at him back so you know exactly what he looks like. But I couldn't do that. I didn't want to give him that satisfaction or to make him aware that I felt uncomfortable. And now I get scared sometimes that he's near me and I don't know that it's him, because you know, unless he was wearing the same blue jacket and carrying a beer, I wouldn't really think twice or like double look. But yeah, I just thought it would be a good thing to share that experience, again, to raise awareness. Things like this happen to women all the time. It's not rare. Although it's unfair, I think speaking about it and sharing experiences, again, it is a smaller experience of mine, it's one that I'm comfortable to share, but nonetheless it was terrifying and it has really, really affected me. So hopefully me sharing that could shed some light onto, again, like some of the things that women experience, and just encourage other people who are brave enough to speak on their experiences to speak up, which is something that has helped me a lot. Like reading all of these women's experiences that are similar to some of mine, it just helps to know that, you know, everyone goes through it, and the fact that it's being spoken about. And I think having the majority of people understand how a woman feels and how a woman's safety is constantly a concern, hopefully that will help people change their behaviour, change their patterns of behaviour, and make them act differently when in certain situations. That there isn't really like a happy ending to this story. It is more just an experience that I wanted to share. The one thing I will say is that I'm very, very glad I did speak to the woman, because as I said, I was in two minds. As a woman, or just in general, if you feel like you're in danger, even if you think you're overthinking or being paranoid, speak to someone. Put yourself in an environment where you do feel safe, if that is possible. I'm gonna get as many safety tips as I can, like numbers you can call, ways you can speak to the police without actually physically calling them. I'm gonna put it all in the description below. I want to just properly do research on everything you can do to keep yourself safe. I don't just want to like list off random things. I want to really put research into it. I don't want to say if you enjoyed this story, because I'm really hoping that you didn't, but if you appreciate me sharing it, and if seeing everyone share their own particular experiences has been helping you too, then let me know in the comments and give this video a thumbs up. But yeah, I hope you did find this video somewhat enjoyable, if I don't know if that's the right word to use, but hopefully I can continue to share some of my experiences with you, just of all different natures. I enjoy doing story time, and especially in lockdown, because it's very hard to think of content, so you know, reliving old stories of mine is something that I can do over and over again. Give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, then please subscribe, and for now, bye.